Hi there everybody, welcome to another video. On today's video I have this old VW Golf VR6. This is a K-Reg, so here in the UK it is a left-hand drive, but it's registered here as a K-Reg and it's a 1993 model. I'm gonna be changing the oil and the oil filter in this car. I just managed to get it out of the garage. It hasn't run for ages and I had all the injectors were blocked or not really working, so I had to remove the fuel rail and all the injectors individually and sort of get them going. Once they were going, the car started, so I was able to get it here. So the first thing I want to do is I left it running a little bit, not too long, just to warm up the oil a bit, so when I drain it, it can come out easier. So the first thing I'm going to do to change this oil and the oil filter is I'm going to pull the dipstick here, leave it there, and also I'm going to open the oil filler cap here and also just leave it there, sort of, just to allow some air to come into the system while we drain the oil from underneath and while we change the oil filter. Now, my supplier of parts sent me some of this oil, 5W30. I have seen other videos where they use 5W40 or even 10W30, I think. So it really, this is sort of temperature related viscosity, but I think this car should be fine with 5W30. And also he did send me a number of filters because he was a bit unsure of which model we had here, because this is kind of an import vehicle, and so he wasn't sure of the engine size and whatnot, which I am not either, which means I'm gonna see what filter comes out and then use accordingly. I think it might be one of these really. And the other thing is, I'm not sure how many liters this car takes. I've been looking, there's just different information out there, but luckily we have a dipstick and it appears to be somewhere in the region of 6 liters. So obviously I'm gonna put 5 liters first and then check my dipstick, start the car, also let it run a little bit because some of the oil goes into the oil filter housing. And then we can recheck the dipstick and see how we need to top up accordingly. So having said that, let's get going. Those two are open and now I'm gonna get the car up. We can drain the oil and change the filter from underneath. And on the next video of this car also, I'm gonna be changing the air filter, but that will be on a separate video. And also I will be changing the coolant, and again that might be on a separate video, as well as the belts. The belts here, the alternator belt, the V-belt, are actually really cracking, so they do need to be replaced. And again, I'm gonna tackle those on another video. So bit by bit, the car hasn't been anywhere in a long time, so just want to take it easy. Right, let's get going. So looking at the car from underneath, we have the sump here and we have the oil filter here. And you can see there it says, when you retighten this, it says 25 Newton meters. So not a lot of force to retighten that. And this sump plug bolt here is a 19 mil socket. So I'm gonna just crack that open. Shouldn't be too tight. Having said that, obviously this car's been sitting for like 15 years, so, but it wasn't driven, so it's a possibility that the oil could be clean as well. And I can see that that oil is not really that black, but obviously because it's been sitting for a long time, condensation and whatever would have formed in the sump, so it could be sort of slightly contaminated with water. So that's why I'm also changing it. Now while that drains, we'll tackle the filter, and for that you're going to need like something like a 36mm socket in order to go there. Right, so while that is draining, we can undo our oil filter here, and I already sort of cracked it open just so I can do it with my 2 hands, but that's basically all I'm doing. And I have that 36mm socket there to undo that. And once you've loosened it, make sure obviously your oil pan is sitting underneath, because you're gonna get some oil dripping. As you may be able to see already, oil is dripping from there. So when you take it out, you're gonna have a shower of oil coming out. So I mentioned that I warmed up the engine a little bit at the beginning, but it wasn't not hot. If you're working with the engine hot, really hot, the oil can be very hot as well, and it can actually burn you. So just be aware of that when you remove the sump plug bolt and when you open your filter here. So how can I avoid a mess here? When you do oil changes or anything of such a nature, it's always difficult to avoid the mess. Right. Let's try our best not to have a shower of oil. And there we are. And such is the shower. So some newer cars have slightly different methods these days, obviously, of draining the oil so that doesn't happen. But anyway, that is out. There's the filter, and now I can compare and see which filter will fit my engine. Okay, I just realized that this filter, actually, this is a fuel filter. So I'm guessing I'm going to be changing a fuel filter at some point. Now, just opening these two, I opened the Mali one, and I can see that's the same part number as the one that's already fitted there, OX125, so OX125. Now it's just a matter of, there should be an O-ring in here, and it's just a matter of pulling this old filter out, and we are going to remove the O-ring that's sitting around here, and then we can fit our new O-ring and our new filter. And also, if you can remember to change the copper washer, then go ahead and do that. I have a new one here that fits this bolt, and actually I may have, but I may not. Oh yeah, the size of that sump plug that I have is this one here, 14 by 20 by 1.5. The sump plug washer. It's just that I bought quite a few of them, and that's because these actually usually fit the Mercedes sump plug bolts and the VW ones. So I'm just gonna go ahead and replace the O-ring that is in here. You can just see it there, the O-ring, and then we can have our new filter. Okay, I changed my O-ring, and just make sure you put it in the correct groove when you remove it. The groove would be quite a large one, obviously, and that be pretty obvious. These other grooves are not big enough for the O-ring to go into. And then I added a little bit of multi-purpose grease. You can see my finger has got some grease. It's just multi-purpose grease that I put, literally multi-purpose grease. that I put around the O-ring. So when we get this filter back on, it can, as we screw it on, this O-ring can slide nicely into place rather than getting caught or getting damaged. That's just my theory, and the theory of many others anyway. But some people may never have done that and may never have had a problem either. So besides, just remember that anything you do or you don't do, if you follow what I'm doing or not, my advice or someone else's advice, just remember that whatever you do at the end of the day is up to you. It's your own, at your own risk. So make sure you try to do things properly so you don't damage your car or even hurt yourself. So that is pretty much it. That is done, and that is ready to go back into the car. So that has drained, and we can go ahead and fit our new filter in there. And I always put it in by hand as much as I can. Make sure the thread is going in the correct way. You can see it's straight, and then I can use the tool to fit the last 5 millimeters in or so, because that's where the O-ring is now. And obviously it's a little bit hard to do it by hand, but if you're really strong, you could do it actually by hand. But I'm not that strong. So anyway, I got my sun plug bolt here with a new copper washer, and I can fit that there too. We'll get it in again. I put it in by hand as much as I can, and usually with VWs, for some reason which I am not aware, when you're putting it in, it goes in a bit quite easy, and then it gets hard, and then you use your ratchet, go past the hard bit, and then it gets a bit soft again until it goes tight again. I don't know what that is, maybe some sort of safety feature. But it's happened to me with most VWs. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten that and this, you could, normally you would tighten to what, 25, 30 Newton meters, not more than that. And obviously if you notice that you have a tiny bit of a leak or anything from there, you ought to check if you change the washer or if there's any extra, any potential damage there. Or if you didn't tighten enough, then obviously you can tighten it a little bit more. But if you're using a torque wrench, 25 to 30 Newton meters should seal that. I never had an issue with a sun plug bolt leaking, by the way. And I don't normally use torque wrenches for these things these days. So, well, as I said, I'm just gonna close these and then clean the area. Okay, got that in. So now I'm just going to clean the area of any oil that has dripped around. That way next time when we come back into this, if we leave the area nice and clean as it was, then if we have any leaks, then obviously we can sort of tell where the leak might be coming from. If it's coming from here, then you will see a drip just there. But if you leave this oily and then you have a bit of an oil from up here or whatever, you make your job a little bit more complicated. So I'm using just this gun here from Worth to spray some of these brake cleaner. That is very effective for cleaning oil. So let's just clean everything nicely, and that is done. So now we are pretty much ready to lower the car and put some engine oil in it. My 5W30 Mobile Super. Time to get our Mobile Super 3000 in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour the 5 liters in there, and then and then we can check the dipstick and see how much oil we have, so we can go accordingly. Obviously, if it's showing a bit low, I will top up a little bit extra before I get the engine running, if I can find a... Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna top this up. It goes in there, no rocket science, and then I'll get back to it. Okay, I've got the 5 liters in. I've actually checked the dipstick here, and my dipstick, usually the marks for minimum and maximum are just here. So this area would be the minimum side, this area here would be the maximum side, so somewhere there. Now I've just checked my oil and it was actually somewhere up here. So that would indicate that I have more than enough, and yet I only put 5 liters. So that is a little bit confusing, but quite a large amount of oil came out of the oil filter housing. So what I'll do now is I'll get the car running and check the oil again, because some of the oil goes into the oil filter housing and it stays there. So when you check the oil, it settles at a slightly different position on your dipstick. So that's what I'm going to do now. Get the car running for a little bit, well, like literally a few seconds, and then check the oil again. Right, let's get this car started. Okay, so oil pressure light has gone out, so that means the oil is now circulating. You just need a few seconds of that, and then and that oil should go into the oil filter housing. And now we can go and check it again. I'm just gonna leave the ignition on because this car has a bit of an immobilizer that is a bit hard to operate. Right, so I'm just gonna check my oil again. All right, I've just checked my oil and it's actually still just a little bit, is somewhere up here. So now I'm just wondering, if I'm pretty sure I've saw everywhere that this car takes something like 5.8 or 6 liters of oil. So what I'm wondering is whether my dipstick is the correct one. Because to be honest, I'm not sure about this car. This car has been there, it's been parked for 15 years, but it's not mine. And it had some upgrades, it had some things done to it. And as a result, judging by that, I can't really tell if I have too much oil or too little oil. But this is the VR6 doesn't take any less oil than 5 liters. So I'm gonna leave it as it is at the moment, and when and I'm gonna do a little bit more research on the oil capacity. But for now, it's a good idea. If your car does have a dipstick, then it's worth checking if you're unaware of how much oil goes into your car, so you can also have a guide like I do at the moment of how much oil is in there. We can see that the oil pressure light went out. That means the oil pressure is fine. If it was too little oil, the oil pressure light obviously comes on. But what we don't have is something for if there is too much oil, and we haven't got a warning for too much oil. So too much oil would normally start causing leaks, oil leaks around, because the pressure would be a little bit too high. which is why I'm gonna leave it at 5 and do a little bit more research. But from the research I've already done, there should be another liter or so going into this car. So anyway, as far as that goes, I hope the video helps. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you do have a bit more knowledge on this, then do let me know as well. Just comment on below. At the end of the day, if we all help each other, then that's good. I just haven't got the manual for this car. Perhaps if I had a manual, then I would be able to check the oil capacity as well, but I don't. And some of these VR6 are 2.8 I think, and some are 3.2 liters, and so it's worth, unless there is something. No, there's nothing there. So anyway, as I was saying, again, I have to repeat this, but anything you do or you don't do to your car or to yourself, it's you at your own risk. So just remember that. So do everything. I would normally recommend to do everything with patience, calmly. Take your time. Obviously, it's your car, your pride and joy. So look after it. So having said that, we'll see you guys on the next video. So thank you for watching.